So what do you do if your online course launch fails? Uh-oh. Let's talk about it coming up right now on the Rise to Top podcast. And welcome, my friends, to the Rise to Top podcast. This is your great and good friend, David Site-McGarland, a.k.a. DSG, talking about all things when it comes to successful online courses. But today, we're going to take on a topic that it's interesting that a lot of times this topic about failure and failing with the launch of your course is something that scares people before it even happens, or before it, a lot of people that ask about this, they haven't had a failed launch. It's more that they're worried that they might in the future. They're worried that they might in the future is if their launch fails. What happens if your online course launch fails? Do we pack up our ball and go home? Is that it? Do we go cry in the corner? What do we need to do with it? And it's interesting that people worry about this oftentimes before it comes to fruition. And in the rare cases that it does happen, I'm going to walk you through the process of how to reevaluate and what to do from there. And this question really came from Christine Own. I think it's Own or On, and I apologize for the butchering of your name, Christine. I'm sure it's wonderful. But she asked about this in our private Create Awesome Online Courses Facebook group. What do you do if your first launch fails? So I'm going to hop into some strategies here today in the podcast. And before we get into the 5 things to evaluate and what to do next, let's talk about failure in general. The first thing is think about this. Was it actually a failure? Was it actually a failure? Because that is such a relative term that it is very difficult for me to say, okay, this is what a failure is and this is what a failure isn't. Because we've had students that do just a few sales on their first launch that now have multi-million-dollar course businesses that just made a few sales on their first launch. So the first thing is, are you comparing to people? Are you seeing someone that did $100,000 or $50,000 or $30,000 on their first launch or more or less? Are you stuck in comparatitis? And so maybe your launch was actually successful, but your expectations were crazy because the entire purpose of your course launch is to bring in your first customers. That's the entire purpose of your course launch, and do it in a proper way that we teach inside of Create Awesome Online Courses, right? So that's the first thing to think about. Wasn't it actually a failure, or is it just maybe you had some unrealistic expectations? Because everybody is different how their launches go, and that's the key as well. So like I said, we've had students that start with just a few sales, and they build and build and build and build over time. So the way that I see a unsuccessful launch is absolute zero. So that means you made literally 0 sales. Okay. So now what do you want to do? What do you want to do? Where do you go from here? So like any good entrepreneur, you're going to have a system of evaluation, and then you're going to have next steps, right? What you don't want to do, and this is what some people get stuck or worry about this. They think, they might say, online courses don't work. And that might be like going to the gym and going for a few weeks and saying, getting in shape doesn't work, or weights don't work, or anything doesn't work, right? Because sometimes we make mistakes. We don't know the right training method. We did something or whatever it might be. So you don't want to discount the method. You just want to go through the strategy here and see where we can clean some things up. Let's clean some things up here. I'm going to take a sip of my sugar-free Red Bull, which is horrible for me, but I don't care. Okay. So here we go into the 5 things to evaluate. The first thing that you want to evaluate is actually audit your course. So is there a clear outcome associated with your course? Meaning, is there a clear result that people are going to achieve if they follow through, right? Achieve in terms of this is the desired result of someone doing everything you say in your course, right? So is there a clear outcome? Is there a clear outcome? Do you have a clear tagline and explaining who this course is for and what it is? So meaning, are you getting deep diving? Can people very clearly see who this is for and make sure that you have narrowed down your target market and what the topic actually is for your course? No fluff, no shenanigans, right? And the third thing to ask about is, do you have clear expertise in the area? Do you have clear expertise in the area? So for example, have you either and or both is totally cool. Do you have personal experience getting the result that's in your course, right? Or have you taught others to do that in a different way, one-on-one coaching or workshops or speaking or whatever it might be? Because every successful course comes from one of those two places: personal experience and or have helped others in a different way. So through coaching, training, whatever it might be. One or the other is critical, right? So go back and evaluate those three things. Those are three questions to ask yourself. So auditing your course is number one. Number two is appearance. And I know this sounds weird. Appearance, who cares about appearances? Well, the bottom line is people do. Regardless of what they tell you, if anyone says that the looks don't matter when it comes to something, they are out of their minds because they are not telling you the truth. They're telling you what you want to hear. And I'm going to tell you the truth. And the thing is that your branding and the way things look online matter. And by the way, this is not something expensive. This is not something that, we have Course Cats, which is one of our softwares that makes your site look amazing, right? But it doesn't have to be Course Cats. But the thing is that your look and feel should look good. There's no excuse for that to not have great photography or having things look good online now in 2019, right? So if you've got some weird, strange, outdated template or things don't look good from any perspective, that can also be a big impact on sales. So I am not saying that you need to hire anyone for that. I'm not saying you need to hire a marketing agency or branding agency or anything like that, but you do have to realize that the way things look matter. And if they look like crap, your launch might be crap. Number three, is there a market? Is there a market? So, again, as we go through these things here, these are things that would have been caught a lot of times if you spent more time on the foundation. So if you're worried about failure, you want to spend more time on the foundation of your course and having these questions answered before you launch, right? But we're getting into, okay, what happens if you skip some things over here, right? So is there a market? Is there a market? And what we mean by that, if there's a market for your online course, I'll give you the easiest way to look at it. There's other podcast episodes that we have on this as well. We'll link those up in the show notes. But you've had people spend money to have you teach them this in a different format. So coaching, speaking, workshops, group coaching, whatever it might be. Training, doesn't matter, okay? So if you've had people spend money to teach you this, there is absolutely a market for your course. Now, let's say people haven't done that. Let's just say you're going off of your own personal results and things like that. Are other people spending money on this topic to learn how to do it? So it might be online, it might be offline, it doesn't matter. It might be through workshops. It doesn't necessarily have to be a course. If there's other courses on your topic, that's great. But look at that. Are people actually spending money to do this thing that you're going to teach them? Are they actually spending money on it? So you want to ask that question as well. So that is the is there a market question. Then number four is marketing. So number one was auditing your course. Number two is appearance. Number three is there a market. Number four is marketing itself. So do you have, and when you launched, did you have a minimum of 1,000 people on your email list? And more importantly, were these people actually interested in your course? So did they opt in for something that is related to your course? So if I was going to do a course on teaching a horse how to talk, maybe my giveaway would be, 5 keys to getting started with horse talking, or 3 things you might not know about getting your horse to talk, or a free checklist of horse talking things, or a free video on whatever, right? Doesn't matter what it is. But did the people on your email list, and maybe you were a blogger that only talks about horse talking or whatever it might be, right? But are there at least 1,000 people on your email list that raised their hand and said, this is something I'm interested in, this is why I've joined? So 1,000 people minimum that are in your target market. Okay. And by the way, you might, if you're old school and you've been around for a while or whatever it might be, you might have people on your email list that are not your target market. That's totally cool. I'm just talking about that you have 1,000 people that are in this specific target market for this course. Okay. That's the first thing to think about when it comes to marketing. The second, were you engaging with your email list before your launch? Before your launch. So meaning, did you have a situation where someone joined your email list and then they never heard from you for a long period of time until all of a sudden you're like, hey, I've got a course coming out, right? That is a recipe for disaster. You want to make sure to stay in touch with your email list with at least 1 email a week leading up towards a course launch and after your course launch as well. So were you engaging with your email list before your launch and building those relationships? And then finally, number 5 is the launch itself. Did you actually do a launch, or did you just come out with it? Did you just say, here we go, course is out, here you go. And did you have a deadline, right? Did you do a proper launch where you opened up your cart and you closed your cart? You actually had a deadline with it, right? Did you do those things that equate to a launch? Okay. So there are the 5 categories: auditing your course, appearance, is there a market, marketing, and launch. Those are the 5 things that I would evaluate when it comes to a quote unquote failed launch. And in this case, I'm saying 0 sales, right? So what do you need to do from there? Well, first of all, if any of these things, and I guarantee you when you look back, you'll start saying, oh my goodness, I did not do one of these things, or I did not do 5 of these things, or I did not do 2 of these things. You will go back and figure that out. There will be, I've been in this business for over 10 years, and I can tell you right now, you will go back and realize it's one of these 5 things, if not more, and you'll be like, oh, wow. So now make adjustments. So if you hadn't done this before, don't worry. We can savor this now in the future. So what I would recommend doing is this: getting a new promotion on the calendar about 2 months from now after your launch. So about 2 months from now, you want to get a new launch on your calendar, okay? And what you're going to want to do is make those adjustments in the meantime. So whatever it is, whatever the things that you need to adjust that were on that list of 5. And then what you're going to do is switch up your promotional strategy. So however you launched your course the first time, let's say you launched it with a free video series, let's say you launched it with a webinar, let's say you launched it this or that way, you want to launch it with a different method when you come back in 2 months. And I'm going to give you 4 different ways that you can do this really quickly. Okay, I'm not going to go into extreme detail on these, but I'm going to give you 4 ways that you could do your next launch. Number 1, you could do a webinar. Number 2, you could do a free video series. Number 3, you could do a free 5-day challenge. Or number 4, you could do an email-only launch. An email-only launch. So basically, you're just going to have email copy leading up to the launch, and that's how you're going to do an email-only launch. And there's methods to all this, so we cover this in Create Awesome Online Courses, but I'm just giving you the overarching strategy here today on the podcast. So you want to come back with a different strategy. So let's say you did a free challenge on your original launch. Now let's go back and let's do a free video series, or let's do an email only, or whatever it might be, right? So you want to switch up your promotional strategy. And now you're going to remarket this course in a different way to both people that have seen it that did not buy and new people, because you want to continue building your email list, right? So I would recommend focusing on 1 to 2 traffic strategies over these next 2 months to keep growing and growing and growing that email list, so that when you relaunch this course, it's going to go to both people that saw it and did not buy and some fresh blood, some new people that are coming in. So those are the 5 ways to evaluate, and that is exactly what to do next about a failed launch. But guess what? If you haven't had a failed launch and you're worried about this, just by spending time on this and following the system and learning exactly what makes a successful course, you are going to eliminate the worries of a problematic launch by 99.9999%. So don't let the fear of failure hold you back from moving you forward. And I hope this helped out with you today here on the Rise to the Top podcast. Now, some reminders on the way out. If you are interested in joining the #1 program in the world on learning how to create, promote, and profit from your own successful online course, you're going to want to go to createawesomeonlinecourses.com/unlock, and you will unlock a special offer to join the program. I got to tell you, we've got a lot of surprises coming for Create Awesome Online Courses. So if you haven't joined, you're going to want to join now. I can promise you this before we have some huge announcements coming up about Create Awesome Online Courses coming soon. And if you haven't subscribed up to the Rise to the Top podcast, go to therisetop.com/subscribe. Make sure to get yourself subscribed up with brand new episodes coming every Tuesday of the Rise to the Top podcast. All right, my friends, I will see you next time. This has been David Site McGarland, a.k.a. DSG, on the Rise to the Top podcast, talking all things online courses. And remember, if you want some fluff, you know what to do. Go pet a bunny.
Walk right into it.
Hello, my name's Aviva. We're in Daddy's office. Yeah, Daddy's office. It's so much fun. Yeah, really, I'm 4. And I can't wait to go to Nana's. And today's Paul's birthday. And I can't wait for his birthday. It's going to be so much fun. And I can't wait. Yeah, really fun. Yeah, really fun. Yeah, really fun. And I can't wait. Okay, I'm done talking.
Say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.